The assassination of John F. Kennedy, a 57-year-old tale, marked the fourth time in history that a president of the United States was assassinated. Abraham Lincoln, James Abram Garfield, and William McKinley were the other three to lose their lives. John F. Kennedy's assassination took place on November 22, 1963. He was traveling through Dallas, Texas, in an open-top convertible when gunshots were fired, fatally injuring the president, resulting in his death. In this video, find out all about John F. Kennedy's assassination and the conspiracies behind it. President Kennedy was not always rooting to become president. The popular political icon had planned to pursue an academic or a journalistic career. But before he decided to run for public office, Kennedy joined the U.S. Navy. He served there from 1941 and was discharged in 1945. During the war, his brother Joe died in a plane crash. On the other hand, Kennedy too barely survived a bombing. A survivor behind enemy lines, Kennedy led his men back to safety. Later, he was awarded the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps Medal for heroism. After getting back from the war, despite his war injuries, he ran for Congress in 1946 and campaigned aggressively.
Representative John F. Kennedy scores one of the few major Democratic victories.
And after he entered the 80th Congress in 1947, Kennedy started to attract attention from a lot of people in high places. Later, Kennedy ran successfully for the Senate in 1951, announcing his candidacy for the presidency on January 2, 1960.
Here today to say that I am a candidate for the office of the President of the United States.
He was elected president on January 20, 1961.
You, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
It was also during these years that he married Jacqueline Lee Bouvier, a lovely socialite and journalist. The couple had 2 kids, and all was going well for the President of the United States. During the September of 1963, the President traveled across 11 states. He was super positive about winning a seat in the upcoming presidential elections. He planned a 5-day tour to Texas and Florida with the First Lady by his side. The campaign went well at San Antonio, Houston, and Fort Worth, where the presidential party resided on the night of November 21, 1963. The next day, Mr. President gave a speech at Fort Worth's Chamber of Commerce breakfast, where he stressed on topics related to the military.
Nobody knows what those words mean, but that's what they mean. Tactical, fighter, experimental, will serve the forces of freedom and will be the #1 airplane in the world today.
Unfortunately, November 22, 1963, was also the last day of President Kennedy's life. After the breakfast speech, Kennedy, his party, and his wife embarked on a short flight to Dallas's Love Field Airport. Once at the airport, after a few warm handshakes with the crowd, the President and the First Lady hopped into the backseat of an open convertible to ride beside Democratic Texas Governor John Connally and his wife. The 4 of them were on their way to the Trade Mart, the next destination, where he was to deliver another powerful speech. The bullets were fired at the president's convertible, and one of them pierced the base of his neck, right through his throat. This bullet supposedly passed through Governor Connally's shoulder and wrist as he was seated in front of the president. Another bullet struck Kennedy at the back of his head. The shooter allegedly fired 3 shots, 2 of which met their target. The motorcade scrambled and rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, the closest hospital back then. However, the doctors' efforts were in vain, and they could not save the president.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
President Kennedy's body was flown back to Washington on Air Force One. Aboard the flight was his wife and Vice President Lyndon Johnson, who was sworn in by U.S. District Judge Sarah Hughes at 2:38 p.m. on the same flight, becoming the 36th President of the United States. While the plane was in the air, Lee Harvey Oswald, the alleged shooter, was arrested on the ground. 2 days later, the alleged shooter was being transferred from Dallas City Hall to the county jail.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's a man with a gun. It's absolute panic. Absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. The detectives have their guns drawn. There is no question about it. Oswald has been shot at point-blank range, fired into his stomach.
Jack Ruby, a local nightclub owner, shot Oswald to spare Jacqueline Kennedy from the pain of having to testify at Oswald's trial. On March 14, 1964, Ruby was sentenced to death. But in October of 1966, a Texas appeals court reversed the conviction, ruling an illegal testimony was allowed in the trial. A new trial was in order. However, Ruby died of cancer on the 3rd of January 1967. The United States lost one of the most prominent presidents in American history. On November 25, 1963, hundreds of thousands of people lined the streets of Washington. They watched as Kennedy's body was horse-drawn from the Capitol Rotunda to St. Matthew's Catholic Cathedral for a requiem mass. The procession went on to Arlington National Cemetery, where leaders of 99 nations gathered for the state funeral. The 35th president was buried with full military honors on a slope below Arlington House, where an eternal flame, lit by Mrs. Kennedy, marking his forever grave. President John Flitzberg Kennedy is a true American hero. Hit like and subscribe if you agree. Share your thoughts in the comments section.